Recently, I was asked by a viewer for an update on my experience with the EM. So today I'm going to be talking about what I think in the last 3 months working with the 2022 EM ePure Race. So I initially bought the EM as a second bike. I didn't necessarily want it to take the place of the TRS that I have, and I've really enjoyed it. It was a bike that would help me learn to turn better, to use more body language, and just to be low maintenance and have fun with. And it's done all of those things. I can say that I really enjoyed this. I kind of bought it more of as like an electric toy, but it's a fully capable machine. This is something that I think I could ride at an event. I'd probably ride a level down because obstacles are a little bit more tricky, which I'll talk about later. But first off, for turning, I know that I still need practice working on cambers and having the correct body position when turning, and so I bought it to work on turns, and it's been flawless for that. This thing is amazing because you don't have to worry about the clutch. You don't have to worry about potentially stalling out the bike, and as such, you can focus more on the part of the turn that you might be struggling with, which for a lot of us is our body posture, the way that we're potentially trying to steer and force the handlebars instead of letting the bike carve out the natural turn. So I have spent a lot of time working on cambers with this type of bike, and I would encourage you, if you are ever thinking about getting an EM and someone has one at an event and you're like, oh, let me try it. Don't go to the park and try and ride up obstacles, rocks and logs and walls, because that comes with a lot of time. You ride it a little differently in those settings. Go to a hillside and work on turns. Go to some area where you can practice slow, tight, technical stuff, because that's where this thing really shines. When it comes to a technical line, something that's really tight between rocks, maybe you got to go slow, maybe a little front hop, something like that, this bike really does well. I believe that I can probably ride technical lines better on this than the gas bike. Part of that might just be because the way that the gas bike is just trying to pull you forward all the time, even with the clutch pulled in, it's very easy to inch forward unintentionally. Whereas on the electric bike, the power delivery is just different. I find myself much more comfortable hopping in place or moving just barely forward to get around a rock and then being able to accelerate out. There's just something that's different as it relates to slow technical lines on the EM. I find I have better bike control overall. Now, when it comes to obstacle riding, this thing is different. It doesn't have the engine inertia. It doesn't have that flywheel. So when going over a log such as this, I'll show you in just a moment, but I tended early on to kind of get stuck. The bike wouldn't just continue on over with the rear wheel. It would just stop. You have to continue to apply a little bit more gas as you're going over something, which can be tricky because if your throttle control is not that good, you're going to wind up giving it too much gas and have rear tire spin, or not enough gas and then you kind of get stuck. So anything that's above maybe 20 inches or 2 feet, I tended to struggle getting over as it related to an obstacle with the EM. Now, as I've gotten more comfortable with it, I'm learning to bash that front tire into obstacles more of a zap or a double blip type of technique. Even when the obstacle's higher, I'm still learning bashing that front tire and will just give you that initial lift to get the bike up there. This doesn't necessarily have the same splatter capabilities. I mean, you can off of a kicker, and I've learned to do that, but it's just different. You ride obstacles slightly different. You're going to be kind of driving the rear tire in and up and through, and so it's just something that takes more time, I'd say, to get used to. Learning to turn and learning to ride in a kind of flatter or hilly terrain, that's a fairly quick crossover, especially when you put it in tick over mode, which I always have. I'm usually in the blue or the red map, and I really like those maps. It's fun to also be able to just toggle down and say, oh, this section isn't as challenging. I'm gonna go ahead and go into the blue map, which is like a 250, so I have less initial force off the bottom, whereas the red's more like a 300. So I'm sure you guys have already heard plenty of reviews about EM. So many people have done it better. I just wanted to give you an update, and I'm gonna go ahead and ride some of these bigger obstacles that I have been doing on the gas bike. I would say I was exclusive on electric for the last 3 months. I just leaned to that and I had a lot of fun on it. I really want to give myself a chance to just ride that bike, to just really get comfortable, because it takes time. I found myself when I was trying to toggle back and forth between the two bikes, the clutches are just different. There's a lot of kind of different aspects. And so I just went with this for about the last 3 months. I did ride on New Year's and had a decent fall. I wound up hitting my head, and it didn't have anything to do with the electric bike, but I just needed a break, and work got busy, weather got bad, and honestly, I just want to spend more time with my kids. I've got twin teenage girls. They're 16. Any of you dads out there know that this is a time that is challenging, and so I just wanted to spend as much time as I could with them. So if you've been saying, where the heck is Tom? Why hasn't he uploaded any videos? It's been, I think, about 2 months, and I haven't gone away from trials, but I did take a break for a while and just spent more time with family, and I'm not gonna apologize for that. So here I am, back making another video, and I hope to have some more coming at you soon, but we're gonna head over there and test out some obstacles on the EM, and then I'll bring out the gas bike as well. thing I just thought of is that the place where you're practicing, if it's in the HOA or a bunch of houses, neighborhoods, it definitely helps to have a quiet bike to practice. I don't have that problem. I can ride whatever bike I want in my practice areas, but EM definitely is more quiet. But I definitely like the sound and the excitement of the engine. There's something about that just doesn't quite do it for me the same as revving this up. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and splat this similar to the EM. With that one, I needed more speed coming into this, whereas this, I can just rev the engine and then drop the clutch a little bit closer to it. So it requires less, I would say, of a run up. It's just a different style of hitting obstacles, but they're both fun bikes. I'm very happy with it. Don't know that I'm going to ride it in competition as a primary bike, but it's definitely a great training tool. And for some people, it might be the perfect bike. I talked more about why I bought an EM in another video. If you're interested in that, go ahead and click this button. Woo! All right, new little section here. Got a little float turn over a log that typically gives me trouble. Shift up into second gear. I'm going to be coming up that for the splatter up on top of that log. So we've got to get set in position. Switched into second gear. It's kind of tight. Couple hops. Now here we are at the runway. Couple deep breaths. Yes, sir.